Get the Pen family, greetings, greetings. I'm so happy to see you. This is Get the Pen. My name is Janine Folks, and we're going to get right into it. Today, I want to talk about my struggle, and maybe it's not just me. As you know, I love to get the pen because I love to write, I love to share. That's why I do this. I love to express and share my thoughts, whether it's through writing or just talking. But sometimes we need to receive, we need to take in insight and information. And we can do that in a few ways. We can listen to audio, we can watch TV, we pick up messaging through television programming like movies and series that we might tune into, documentaries and things like that, where information is shared. But one of my biggest struggles is sitting down to finish a book. Maybe your attention span is set up like mine, where sometimes I have some difficulty sitting myself down to read and get my downloads in the form of a book. It takes me back to the movie The Matrix. If you saw The Matrix, the first Matrix, which I thought was the best Matrix, and if there was some information they wanted, they would just plug in the back of their neck, sit in that chair, and download the information without spending hours reading. It was just in a matter of moments, minutes, seconds, where they could download this information. If they wanted to learn karate or learn how to do something, they could plug in and download. It's not that simple for us. So I have these books that I want to read. Now, you know, I love books. I love books. I'm obsessed with books, whether I'm writing them, whether I'm selling them, or buying them and trying to carve out the time to read them. And I'm talking about real books. You know, most of us want to be well read because we want to be well informed and knowledgeable. We want insight. And movies are good. Television programming is good because it's visual. And for some people, that's an easier way to receive stories and information. But some of our best imaginations are created through the reading of a book. I remember when I used to read Judy Blume books back in elementary school. That's when I first really got into reading. And some of my classmates, you know, we would be assigned a book like Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing or Blubber or Hello, God, Are You There? God is Me, Margaret, and those kinds of books. And me and my friends would get together and kind of talk about what we read and how it impacted us. And one of the things that we all had in common was we visualized what their house looked like. Just based on what we read, we would get a picture in our mind of their house and how it looked, how it was set up. And it was funny how we all compared our visions, and there were some similarities, but we all formulated our own images in our mind based on the descriptions that were given in the book. So we can all walk away from the same book but have a different perspective. And you see it with the Bible and how people will read the same Bible and walk away with completely different interpretations. Uh, the perspectives, the range of perspectives is very wide. I'll just say that. So some books can be intimidating, especially when they're thick. I have all these books that I've been meaning and needing to read, and I just haven't had, well, I haven't taken the time. Sometimes we have to steal time because it's not going to be given to us. If there are things you need to do and you haven't done them because you don't have time, you have to make time. You have to steal away. Now I understand why they used to say steal away, because nobody is going to give you an hour to yourself. Nobody is going to give you 30 minutes of quiet time. They're not going to do it. You have to take it. And then when I see people or hear people saying they're bored, and I'm like, how? I would love to have some boredom time. I would love to have some time where I just had absolutely nothing to do. And sometimes those are the best times. Sometimes I want a moment where I have absolutely nothing to do so that I can sit and think. And I would not dare complain about having a moment of nothing to do. Do you know how golden that is? Do you know how golden it is to have time on your hands with nothing to do? Because our lives are so full. We have so many responsibilities. We have places to be. We have people to help, things to do. We have money to make. We have ideas to explore. There is so much going on in life that I don't know how anyone could be bored. I'm at a loss for words. There are books, there is information to learn, there are things to think about, there are things to see. There are so many things we can do to fill our time. And even when you do have a void in time where there's nothing to do, rest in that. Rest in that. That is a blessing. You can use that to take a nap, or you can simply meditate and recharge. You can simply do nothing. Sometimes when I have a day off or some time off, or there's a holiday or some vacation time, and sometimes people ask me, what are you going to do? And sometimes my response is as little as possible. I am going to do as little as possible, and hopefully I can do absolutely nothing. I love those moments. Now, I'm not saying that we should just be idle. Of course, we cannot be idle. There's too much work to be done, and most of us are busy people, and we stay busy, and that is good, but we have to balance our busyness with times of reflection. And in that reflection time, you can either sit quietly and meditate, you can color, you can read. Some of us watch television programming. Whatever you choose to do, whatever fills your cup, do that. And make sure it is stress free. Our quiet time should be a time where we can decompress. We don't want to stress out in our free time if we can help it. So now I have taken away your ability to say you're bored. And even if you are in a moment where there is nothing to do, like I said, sit in that, enjoy that, dwell in it, bask in it, reflect in it, think in it, ponder in it, be introspective in it. That can be some of the most productive times of your life, because that's where you will receive your downloads and your marching orders. And then you can go and write it down, capture it with your pen. You can get the pen. There's always a time to get the pen. And that's why you should always have paper handy, or a journal or a notebook handy, because you'll get those moments where you're having all these thoughts and you need to capture them. Even when you're reading a book, I'll find myself circling words. You may come across a word that you're not familiar with, and that's the beauty of having Google. What is this word? What does that mean? I don't know. Even in context, sometimes you can't figure it out. You can expand your vocabulary, learn new words. When you read and you come across a word that you don't know, look it up, write it down. And now you can go back and use those words in conversations, and you will seem so smart. No, you will be so smart and well read. And people are like, wow, she used some fancy words. It's okay to use fancy words. And even different concepts, you will notice that even in fiction books, some of the situations are very real. Some of the challenges that the characters face are very relatable. And sometimes we just want to be informed. What is this they're talking about? How do we change our lives? How can I make my life better? How can I flood my thoughts with positivity and empowering information? Things that are going to help me feel better and be healthier, eat better, move better, make better use of my time, make advancements in my life, do better on the job, do better in my business, and even things that I am just curious about because I want to understand it. Why do they do that? It does not mean that I have to adopt those thoughts or that I have to subscribe to them. I'm just learning about them. I am just expanding my awareness. And that's one thing that limits us. Sometimes when you study or learn something that is contrary to your own belief system, reading and learning about it doesn't mean that you have to go that way or lean that way. It just means that you're aware of another way of thinking. You are aware of another way of believing. It doesn't mean you have to start believing that. It just means, oh, I can understand a different perspective. And it can stay a different perspective. But now you know about it. Now you're read up on it and aware of it. So when we are educated in that way, that can be the best defense, is because I know about it. But when we just exist in ignorance and we don't know things and we don't understand things, that makes us less equipped because we don't know how the ops is thinking. We don't know what they believe in. We don't know what compels them. We don't know what the energy is behind their actions. But when you are well read, you can see all those different perspectives and all of those other world views. It doesn't mean you have to adopt or subscribe to them, it just makes you aware of them and how they operate. And to me, that is not a bad thing. The more you know, right? For me, the more you know, the better. And if you have a disciplined mind, nobody is going to take you off your course. Nobody is going to rearrange your faith or belief system if you are grounded in it, if you are solid in your faith. The only people who might get knocked off of their faith is if they were not solid in the first place, if they were not sure in the first place. If you're that easily swayed, then you were never grounded in your belief system in the first place. If you are afraid to hear a different point of view because you think it's going to pull you away from what you believe, then you were not grounded. And maybe it is safer for you to not learn other things. It might be safer for you to just stay in that one lane and only know your lane. For some people, that might be the best way. But then there are other people who want to broaden their horizons, who want to know more than what's in their sphere. They want to know other things about the world and how other people operate and think and the challenges that other people face and how they dealt with them. We can learn so much from other people. We can learn what is helpful and we can learn what we should avoid. There is so much to learn in the world of books. Of course, we have to be careful with our book selection, but I want to encourage you to be a reader. And that is something that I struggle with because I don't steal away enough time to sit down and be focused. And reading is a form of meditation because it's where you're clearing your head of all of the problems and all of the worries and cares that you're dealing with, and you are transporting your mind, your thoughts into a whole nother place. When you pick up a book and you're reading a book, you might be sitting at a table or in a chair, but your brain, your mind is in a whole nother world. You have escaped to go to a whole nother place, and you are envisioning things. You are using your imagination, your imagery, formulating pictures and scenarios in your mind. And that is the epitome of creativity and learning and exploration, because sometimes we cannot physically go to certain places, but we can read about them and learn about them in that way. And I'm going to wrap up with this note. Um, as a hospice worker, I work with a lot of people who are at the end of their life. And sometimes there are things that they want to do and see, but because of their limited life expectancy and their limited physical capabilities, they know they may never get to have these experiences that they want. Case in point, I had a gentleman who was dying, but he always wanted to go to Disney World. And he knew at this point in life that it wasn't going to be possible for him to go to Disney World. So we could recreate scenarios like with virtual reality goggles where they can explore and physically feel like they're in that place that they want to visit, but they can't get there physically. They can get there virtually. You can do a VR trip to Disney, a VR trip to mountain climbing. There are ways for us to transport ourselves into situations that we may not physically be able to go to. And even in our fiction books, There are places that may not literally exist. They only exist in the imagination, and we can travel to those places, meet those people, meet those characters. That is the beauty of reading. And if your attention span is like mine, where sometimes it's hard for me to sit still long enough and stay focused long enough to read, I have come up with three things that I can do to help buckle myself down to focus and read these books. And I'm gonna try it during Lent. And Lent is a good time to um, make some changes or try things out. Like if you want to spend 40 days off the internet, okay, I'm gonna try to fast from the internet and see how focused I can get and how focused I can get on my reading. Or I might say, well, I'm going to detox from sugar in those 40 days. So whether the Lenten season isn't in alignment with your faith practices or beliefs, you can still use that time of fasting to recreate a habit or create a habit, change a habit, um, self improvement. Focus on reading, and maybe that is a habit that will stick with you even beyond Lent. Giving up sugar, that may be a habit that will stay with you even beyond Lent. Once you feel the benefits of it, you're not going to want to stop doing that. Once you see how much better you feel without sugar or without processed foods, why would you go back to something that was making you feel bad, even though you said you only were giving it up for 40 days? But it could be a new lifestyle because you like the way it made you feel. You can feel how nice it is to be detoxed. Why would you go back to putting toxins back in your system? And if you discover that, hey, I like reading when I stay off the internet for a certain amount of time, I'm more creative, I'm less anxious, I'm less negative. I'm going to keep reading, I'm going to keep filling my mind with good things. Why would you go back to toxicity after you've detoxed? That's a whole nother conversation. But today, my focus really is on the benefits of reading books and how reading can change your life. And if you are having trouble focusing on reading, one thing you can do to help yourself be a reader is to pick topics or pick books that are of interest to you. If the book is not interesting or not a subject that you want to learn more about, it's going to be harder for you to focus or be interested in that book. So pick something that is of interest to you. Number two, remove distractions. You can wake up an hour earlier in the morning and carve that time out for reading, or the hour that you might have spent watching the news or binge watching a series on Netflix, you can take an hour or 30 minutes of that time to use for reading a book. And number three, the third thing that you can do to help you focus on your reading is to think about how well informed you're going to be, how much knowledge you can absorb from reading, and how broad your perspectives are going to be because you have delved into the world of reading. I could go on with more reasons and things that might compel you to be a better or more devoted reader, but you can come up with your own because you will have your own reasons for why you want to be a reader, why you want to be more well read, why you want to obtain this information, why you want to be knowledgeable in this area. You can teach yourself, you can read up on things yourself. There's so much information available to us. We are still in the information age, and we we need to tap into it and learn more. And as you're learning, remember to get the pen because now you're going to take and process the information, and then it's going to help you form your own writing, your own ideas that you need to get out, whether you choose to share them or keep them to yourself. You can still get the pen to capture the highlights that you've gleaned from your reading. This has been a Get the Pen moment. My name is Janine Folks. You can always check me out at getthepen.net. See you next time.